Welcome, my friends. Welcome to another edition of More Bad News, brought to you, as always, by Camel Cigarettes. Take the Camels Challenge, smoke Camels for 30 days, and see for yourself what a difference Camels can make in your life. Well, my friends, it's been another week of very bad news. The CDC reported this week that hospitals are reaching their capacity as respiratory infections of all kinds are running rampant across the country. The problem is that vaccination rates are of all sorts for all sorts of diseases are at an all-time low due to the campaign against vaccination that began with the pandemic. Fewer people than ever are being vaccinated. The CDC also noted that 1 in 7 COVID patients suffer from long COVID, and that many people are simply going from one infection to another and finding themselves perpetually ill. My friends, if you refuse to get vaccinated for the flu, for RSV, for COVID, you should take the Camel's Challenge. I mean, this challenge is really aimed at people like you, people who laugh in the face of science. And remember, in repeated national surveys, doctors from all parts of the country, doctors in every field of medicine, were asked, "Doctor, what cigarette do you smoke?" The answer, more doctors chose Camel over all other brands. Back when America was the greatest nation on the face of the earth, there were people who smoked 3 or 4 packs of cigarettes a day. It was called chain smoking. You lit up in the morning, and when the cigarette burned down, you simply took another one and lit it from the butt before it, and you went through the entire day with a cigarette in your mouth the entire time. Yes, it may take some years off of your life, but do you really want to live a long life? I mean, look around you. What is there to look forward to? Better to die young on a pack or more a day than to live to see the darkness that is about to descend upon us. So this week, the Washington Post reported a story on body parts collected by the Smithsonian Museum in Washington, D.C. It turns out that Arlis Hadlika, a eugenicist who I wrote about in my 1988 dissertation on the American eugenics movement, headed the effort to collect tens of thousands of body parts, which were still available for study, which are still available for study. He went around the country and he did a lot of these autopsies himself. What you do is you mostly black poor people. Who else can you take the brain away from? When they die. This shouldn't come as a surprise. In 1981, Stephen Jay Gould published The Mismeasure of Man. This is this book, 1981, really a brilliant study, in which he talked about Samuel G. Morton, who collected skulls for the Harvard Museum in the 1850s. Morton, like Hrdlicka, believed that there were racial differences in humans that could be measured. And so he went about collecting skulls. Using the mustard seed measure of intelligence, he concluded that whites had bigger brains than blacks. The mustard seed measure is really simple. You take a skull and you fill it with mustard seed, and then you weigh the mustard seed. And it turns out you can get a lot more mustard seed into white skulls than you could in the black skulls. The problem for Morton, as for Hrdlicka, was that it's not easy to get body parts. Now, Morton found that he could collect white skeletons from northern prisons, and black skeletons he could collect from southern plantations. This was the 1850s. The problem was that the skeletons from the prisons were all men, and the skeletons from the plantations were mixed gender, men and women. And as everyone knows, women, on the whole, in general, this is not racist or sexist, women are smaller than men on average. And so if you have a collection of skulls that are all men's skulls and another collection that's mixed gender skulls, the all men's skulls are going to be bigger than the mixed gender. Well, it was look, it was a flaw, but let me tell you, science progressed, and these theories were updated then by J. Philip Rushton in the 1990s. And I ended up debating Rushton on a number of popular daytime shows. It was like a little circus. We went around from the Geraldo show to the all Jane Wallace, Donahue. We just went from one to another. It was ratings week, and everybody wanted in on this. And Rushton insisted that black people did, in fact, have larger genitals and smaller brains than white people. And I insisted that the idea that black people have smaller brains and larger genitals was racism, not science. But for those of you who might still believe in science, I recommend in-human research, medical experiments in German concentration camps. In 2006, this is Alfred Pasternak. And I'll just read you one paragraph from the introduction, from the preface. Irma Liebman was 71 years old when she was taken to Auschwitz. She was the widow of Aaron Liebman, a great Talmudic scholar, a deeply religious, well-to-do, respected man. She was small and had a beautiful snow-white hair. She was a gentle, kind, quiet, fragile little lady. She always walked with a silver-headed cane. Dr. Josef Mengele, who conducted the selections of the newly arrived prisoners at Auschwitz, immediately waved her to the right. A few hours later, her frail body was reduced to a few ounces of ash. Irma Liebman was my grandmother. She was killed in Auschwitz along with 96 other members of my family. Also killed there was every one of my childhood friends, leaving me the only child survivor of our little Hungarian community. Josef Mengele also collected body parts. He was a MD, PhD. He had an MD and he had a PhD in anthropology. He, under the world-renowned Ottmar Freiherr Verschauer. Verschauer was the director of the Kaiser Wilhelm's Institute of Anthropology, and Verschauer got Mengele the job at Auschwitz so that he could go about collecting these body parts. People would come in, he would have them done away with, and then they would do autopsies and take out organs, and then they would take the flesh and cook it so that they would get all their flesh off and had to have skeletons. And then all this stuff would be packed up and sent to Berlin to Warschauer at the Kaiser Wilhelm. And Warschauer always wrote back to Mengele, telling him how much he appreciated these rare and valuable specimens. So for those of you who still have faith in science, I recommend camels. Remember, more doctors, in fact, more men of science in every field smoked camels. So if you believe in science, take the Camels Challenge. Sure, it will shorten your life, but do you really want to live long enough to see what awaits our species and our planet? Start smoking today. Remember, when more doctors smoked camels, America was the greatest nation on the face of the earth.